Chapter 384, Voyage Home 3. The stream of blood drew an arc as it spurted out of her nose, but fortunately, Seal was fine. She had simply drained herself of too much mana too quickly. There was no need for divine magic or a potion. Merely rolling up a tissue and blocking her nostrils was sufficient. Seal didn't say anything as she caught her breath. She felt slightly dizzy. A metallic taste lingered in her mouth and her stomach churned. It was a challenge to breathe easily with tissues plugging both her nostrils. Seal pouted and exhaled with a wheezing sound. "That's to be expected," said Eugene while crossing his arms. "It's not just any demon eye. It's the demon eye of darkness. Even Iris couldn't use it as she liked before becoming a demon king." Seal remained silent. "It would be fine if you couldn't use it as you liked as soon as you gained such a powerful demon eye," commented Eugene. "Just a few days ago I used it just fine," retorted Seal. "Maybe they let you use it for free for the first time like a free trial," joked Eugene. "Don't talk nonsense. Do you think this demon eye is some cheap toy sold on the streets?" Seal said angrily. "Don't raise your voice and don't get emotional." "Look, you're bleeding again," responded Eugene. Eugene handed Seal a new tissue while clicking his tongue. Seal took it with a gloomy expression before turning away to reseal her nose. "Give me the trash," said Eugene. "Are you crazy? Why would I give that to you?" shouted Seal. "Crazy? Aren't you the one to talk? Don't make me sound weird. Why would I want a bloody tissue you've used?" "What would I do with it?" retorted Eugene. "I know that, but still, who knows?" Seal puckered her lips and summoned her mana. The rolled-up tissues ignited and vanished into the flame. "Is it the difference between conscious and subconscious?" Christina interjected while massaging Seal's hand. "The only difference between then and now is that Seal had first used the demon eye when Eugene drew the divine sword. At that time she had been unaware of the demon eye's presence, and her mind was far from clear. Yet Seal watched as Eugene confronted the Demon King amid the heavens. She saw the Demon King advance towards Eugene. Thinking back to that first time, Seal said, "Indeed. Back then I was watching Eugene unconsciously. I felt like I needed to stop the Demon King. I needed to help Eugene." Seal's voice was solemn as she put a fresh tissue in place. "But back then I didn't realize that my eye had become a demon eye. Now that I'm aware, using the power of the eye unconsciously is—" "What on earth are you talking about?" Sienna asked with a ridiculous expression after staying silent until now. "Didn't you hear? Did you already forget? Morgiabella, that damned whore, said she put something in Seal's eyes. Oh, the elixir of Shimuan's royal family. It was intended to treat your injured eye. But at that moment your eye exploded and it was replaced by the demon eye." "So what happened to the elixir that was left over?" questioned Sienna. "Well, I'm not sure," muttered Seal. "What do you mean not sure?" "It seeped into your demon eye. The surplus mana that should have disappeared or been added to you acted as a booster. That's why, Seal, you manifested the power of the demon eye without much strain," explained Sienna. "What do you think?" Although she had not stated it outright, Sienna bore a proud expression. She was clearly convinced of her theory. It was an opinion so clear that one could neither argue with it nor feel the need to. "Don't act so arrogant," Eugene shot back. He wasn't fond of the slight smugness on her face. In response, Sienna gave a smirk and raised her middle finger. "So, are you implying that for now my mana is insufficient to wield it?" asked Seal. "Exactly," Sienna affirmed with a nod. "Conversely, should there be ample mana, you can use the power of the demon eye." The lack of mana that Seal possessed wasn't the only issue. Even if she advanced further in the white flame formula and increased her reservoir of mana, developing the power of the demon eye was another challenge altogether. "How about you or I lend her some mana?" Eugene suggested after turning towards Sienna. There were numerous ways to provide Seal with mana. One could employ a Kasha like Eugene or receive help from Rhaenyra. "It's fine." However, Seal shook her head before Sienna could respond. "Frankly, rather than me wielding this power with help from someone else, it will be far more formidable for you or Lady Sienna to fight." "That's a good point," Eugene easily agreed. He couldn't deny it. While the power of the demon eye of darkness was immense, it was a waste to support a power that couldn't be fully controlled during an intense battle. However, the most exceptional ability of the demon eye of darkness was its power to traverse between the shadows it created. Such an ability among all powers was the most intuitive and robust even among the demonies. It wasn't merely for attacking. If utilized creatively, it could prove very versatile. Not all support was merely about enhancing attacks. Molan, Eugene said. It wasn't only Eugene who thought of the name. Sienna gave a slight nod with a small grin, and Christina let out a short gasp of realization. Anise murmured a prayer within Christina. Even at that very moment, Molan was in Lehanjar. He might be slaying the Nur. Or perhaps he might have already cast the corpse of the slain Nur towards Roguyaran. That eerie space. The other side of Lehanjar, which Vermouth allowed access to. Eugene recalled his first entry there. Molan didn't open the door for him. Rather, the barrier just opened. The Moonlight Sword had been used as the key. At the time he had his doubts, but he hadn't pondered much. Maybe, just maybe, it was Vermouth's design, since the Moonlight Sword was his cherished blade. However, now he could contemplate more profoundly and accurately. The Moonlight Sword was the sword of destruction. The Nur was the beast of destruction. The other side of Lehanjar, where the Nur appeared, and even Roguyaran, dubbed the end of the world, all were connected to the Demon King of Destruction. And Vermouth. Molan won't leave Lehanjar. Eugene stopped thinking about Vermouth. Nothing was certain yet. He didn't wish to speculate or misunderstand Vermouth without knowing the truth. It would shake his faith in Vermouth. That idiot stayed in a distorted world, a world we don't know about, for over a century, killing monsters. He wanted to die, but he couldn't. That's how he's been all this time. All because of his promise with Vermouth, that bastard, said Eugene. Molan had devoted himself to the task of killing Nur and ensuring that the end from Roguyaran never came to pass. The appearance of the Nur was unpredictable, as were their numbers. Hence, Molan could not leave Lehanjar. But, if we were to ascend Babel and confront the Demon King of Incarceration, that fool would want to join the fight, continued Eugene. Neither Sienna nor the dragons could traverse great distances instantaneously with their magic. Only the Demon Kings had the power to disregard distance with their teleport. The only thing that was similar was the leaves of the World Tree, but not all of them held such abilities. Moreover, their destination was limited to the domain of the elves. The stronghold of the Demon King of Incarceration was at the heart of Pandemonium, the capital of Helmuth. While the city did house numerous warp gates, they were unlikely to function amidst the chaos of war. It was sheer folly to consider using the capital's warp gates on a mission to assassinate the emperor of the vast Helmuth Empire. However, if Seal could master the Demon Eye of Darkness on her own and freely wield its powers, perhaps she could bring Molan from Lehanjar to Babel. This would open the door to a quest that had failed 300 years ago, the conquest of the Demon King of Incarceration. They could attempt it once more. Without Vermouth, Eugene, Sienna, and Anise thought. Meanwhile, the implication of Eugene's words made a heavy weight press down on Seal. She felt a heaviness in her left eye, and with a gulp she gently touched its corner. To make this plan work, Seal had to master the Demon Eye's power, and not inadequately either. Lehanjar was located north at the farthest reaches of the continent. Pandemonium was also located north, and it would take months to traverse the distance between the two by horse. Seal would need to bridge this vast distance through the Demon Eye of Darkness. "It'll be fine," Sienna said after noticing Seal's disheartened expression. "The Demon Eye of Darkness, those damned eyes." She paused upon realizing the profanity of her words. "Ahem, I mean, your magnificent eyeball. I know as much about them as Iris does." The research to defeat Iris' Demon Eye had concluded 200 years ago. Although they couldn't decode the manifestation process of its power, they had long understood how the dark matter was formed. "It's not like we're rushing," Christina chimed in with a compassionate smile. Seal cleared her throat a few times before nodding. Meanwhile, her nosebleed had stopped completely. Seal turned her head, plucked the tissue from her nostrils, then set them alight. "I'm better now," she assured them. "Then let's move on." Sienna rose swiftly. "We have another test for your eye. It has two abilities, right? The Demon Eye of Darkness and the Demon Eye of Immobility," Seal interjected. "Do we have to call it that?" "It's the name that the Queen of Horrors gave it," complained Sienna. "Should we give it another name?" said Eugene. "Demon Eye of Stasis," someone suggested. "Immobility or stasis? Does the name truly matter?" Christina asked. But using the name given by Noir leaves a bitter taste, Sienna grumbled. Yet no suitable name came to their minds. Light's novel. 3 days passed and Noir Giabella awoke with the gentlest of stirrings. Not even the slightest whimper passed her lips. Her large eyes twinkled like the vast firmament as she gazed upwards. She let out a soft chuckle. Ah, it seems. Her possession had been forcefully undone. Her spirit had transcended distances to nestle within the night demon, her vassal, leaving behind her main body, which housed enough power to rival that of the demon kings. Noir was particularly vulnerable when she was in this state. Thus the dagger of Eugene of Hamel both hurt and exhilarated Noir. Such a pity, she lamented while slowly lifting her hand to her chest. No scar remained, and the dagger that once pierced her heart was absent. However, she wished that even a tiny scar would have lingered, for it would have been a cherished gift from her beloved Hamel. What do I do? She whispered with a coy smile on her lips. She suddenly sat up before burying her face in her hands. I think I've fallen even deeper in love. 3 centuries had passed. He had died once and reincarnated. Despite all that he had endured, Hamel remained unchanged. Nay, his hatred had grown fiercer. Was it due to the failure in his past life? Or was it because he was slain by the very demons he despised? The Hamel of the present harbored a deeper loathing than the Hamel from 300 years ago. Noir cherished this rage, this singular intent of Hamel towards the demon race. Though Noir could traverse between reality and fantasy, crafting realities as she saw fit, she couldn't fathom her own demise. But with Hamel, that man who seemed destined to vanquish demons. Iris is dead, Noir remembered. A heat rushed to her cheeks. Had she ever felt a love so pure? Noir descended from the bed while giggling. And to think she had just become a demon king, Noir's thoughts were full of mirth. It was evident that Noir held no compassion for Iris. In Noir's mind, squandering all of her massive wealth on beggars in Giabella Park was more justified than showing pity for Iris. Why Hamel? Noir whispered as if caressing the name. The power and prestige that came with becoming the Demon King paled in comparison to what Noir possessed. If he struggled against the likes of Iris, his blade would never reach Noir in this lifetime. But even without the support of Vermouth and Molyn, Hamel never wavered. He fulfilled the roles of both Vermouth and Molyn with the aid of Sienna and the Saint. And then there was that blade Hamel drew at the end. A red sword, a luminosity that was both light and not, a weapon formed from a strange power. Such power can reach even a demon king, Noir mused while pressing her hand on her racing heart. But it cannot touch me. Noir grinned, her crimson lips parting in amusement. She gracefully approached the window, and though the curtains were thick, denying any semblance of light into the room, they began to draw back at her approach. The entire wall was made of glass. It began to glow in response to her approach. It wasn't sunlight, no sun graced this city. Instead, innumerable lights that illuminated the city tickled Noir's heart. The delicate, swaying tail gently stretched out. It fetched the vibrant robe draped over the sofa. Noir draped the robe over her pristine, naked form and stood before the window. She declared, "Even now my power grows." With a gracious smile, she gazed down from the window. La 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 la. Happy, happy Giabella. Everyday Giabella Day. Welcome to Giabella Park. Dreams come true. Welcome, welcome to Giabella Park. Without a doubt, it was the most luminous city in Helmuth. Bender. Second only to Pandemonium in terms of visitors, this city of eternal night bloomed most beautifully under its dazzling lights. In this city of pleasure, if one paid the price, one could indulge in delights unimaginable in the real world. This city, Giabella Park, was the greatest source of life force for Noir. She beamed with pride as she overlooked the city she had shaped. Whoosh. The mansion of Noir Giabella also served as the mascot of Giabella Park as it floated in the sky. The mouth of the floating Giabella face opened to announce, "Surprise Giabella Showtime." This event was dictated solely by Noir's mood, and it always began spontaneously without warning. The city resounded with cheers. Even the distinguished guests lodged in the top floors of the hotels flung open their windows, leaning out and waving their arms in jubilation. Noir giggled merrily while spreading her arms wide. The Giabella face, dependent fully on her will, tilted entirely to meet the gaze of the city below. Fantastic. Noir whispered, and a magical veil of illusion draped the city. The dream conjured by the queen of the night demons in Giabella Park was something not even monarchs could afford. The selling and buying of these dreams relied solely on Noir's mood. But during this Giabella showtime, for a brief moment, Noir granted everyone a glimpse of a dream. What millions had imagined became a transient reality through the lens of illusion. All the emotions felt in these dreams caused tiny amounts of life force to leak through them, and they supplemented Noir's power. "Hamel," she whispered as she lay suspended in midair, "when will your blade reach me? It would be wise to hurry." Memories of Hamel's eyes, voice, the fleeting touch of his skin, scent, hatred, and desire made Noir chuckle with delight. Chapter 385 Voyage Home 4. The steady clatter of heels grew louder. Gavid was seated at his desk scrutinizing documents before he released a deep sigh and adjusted his glasses. "It really is quite troublesome if you keep coming so suddenly," he said. Gavid's days were incessantly occupied, for in the vast realm of the Helmuth Empire, most decisions eventually required his sanction. Moreover, he held the title of Chief of Security for Helmuth's capital, Pandemonium, and Commander of the Black Fog, the Demon King's Guards, among other eminent roles. It was to the degree that his role as the Commander of the Black Fog was the least demanding role among those he held. At that very moment he was examining reports garnered from thousands of air-fish hovering over Pandemonium. The capital, Pandemonium, boasted the lowest crime rate by comparison to all the other cities on the continent. It might seem comical that a city ruled by demons attracted the most tourists on the continent and had such peace, but it was mainly due to the tireless efforts of Gavid and the countless demons working under the banner of Babel. However, endless tasks loomed ahead for Gavid. By nature, demons flaunted their power and annihilated their kin to enhance their own strength. These inherent tendencies of the demons had been curtailed by numerous laws with the rise of the Helmuth Empire. However, following the recent investiture of the staff of incarceration, many complex procedures surrounding the hierarchy battle in Helmuth vanished. This led to frequent duels and the altering of hierarchies by the hour, which in turn led to an exponential surge in the amount of work for Gavid and the workers of Babel. Such significant shifts would undoubtedly take time to stabilize. Of course, Noir Giabella was indifferent to such changes. Her unannounced visits often paralyzed Babel's operations, but she felt and took no responsibility for it. If they could not work now, could it not simply be caught up later? The demons working in the Tower of Babel of the Helmuth Empire were the cream of the elite. They drew staggering salaries and were ensured incredible privileges till their eventual demise. The astronomical annual taxes extracted from Noir Giabella were transformed into the wages of the demons working at Babel. As such, never once having missed the top spot on Helmuth's taxpayer honor roll, Noir considered her abrupt visits minor nuisances. "The real inconvenience will be the tax bomb I'll face next year," Noir chuckled while sweeping her hair aside. Her words, though jokingly spoken, held an undercurrent of truth. In just 2 days the year would conclude. This year, Noir had experienced monumental, almost mythical success, unmatched in Helmuth's 300-year reign as an empire. The forest of dark shadows she had wrested from Iris in a territorial battle was cleared to make way for Giabella City. Giabella Park occupied much of this land, and the revenue it brought in less than a month from opening easily surpassed the monthly revenue of Noir's original territory, Dreamia. The city's dazzling success delighted Noir, but the Helmuth Empire's taxation for high earners was cutthroat. The paradisiacal welfare provided by Helmuth for human migrants was only possible thanks to the exorbitant taxes paid by the likes of Noir. "Why have you come?" "To negotiate the tax rates." Gavid sighed deeply once more while looking up from his paperwork. As she approached from the elevator, Noir's appearance did not match the image of the woman hailed for her mythic success as a CEO in Helmuth. She was wearing a perilously short skirt, a skin-tight suit flaunting her curves, and glasses worn solely for aesthetic purposes. Tap 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 tap. The echoing sound of boot heels continued to resonate. It was because Noir was taking steps in the same spot. "Why have you come?" Gavid inquired once more. She had not arrived to negotiate her taxes. Gavid wished to dismiss her immediately, but he couldn't send her away so coldly after hearing the term tax bomb. His visitor was Helmuth's highest taxpayer, the one who swayed the realm's finances. Gavid had to slightly curtail the fury and irritation in his voice in consideration of this fact. Above. Whoosh. In an instant, Noir, who had been pacing at a distance, stood right before Gavid. She settled her ample form on a desk laden with scrolls and leaned towards him before parting her plump lips. "May I ascend?" she asked. "Have you lost your mind?" Gavid shot back. While a heady aroma enveloped him, Gavid's emotions remained unchanged. Instead, he glared at the scrolls Noir had carelessly sat upon before spitting. "No matter your status as a duke or Helmuth's greatest taxpayer, you have no right or means to summon the Demon King of Incarceration. Why act so coldly? We've been friends for ages, haven't we?" Noir responded. "Since when were we friends?" Gavid shot back scornfully. "Perhaps from 300 years ago? Or perhaps from a month ago when the death of that idiot Raizakia was confirmed." Noir continued with a grin, but Gavid's expression turned icy. "Idiot, is it?" "You're not wrong," Gavid agreed. "Even as a duke, Demon Dragon Raizakia never made an appearance for centuries. Even when his fortress, the Demon Dragon Castle, was struck down, he never made a public appearance. Not only Helmuth but the whole continent wondered about the whereabouts of the Demon Dragon. Then a month ago, news about Raizakia spread throughout the world. Eugene Lionheart, that audacious brat, was said to have slain Raizakia. Raizakia had remained in seclusion for centuries near the Samar forest, and Eugene had sought him out and killed him. And it didn't end just there. Eugene paraded Raizakia's corpse as a trophy after bringing it back to his family. Moreover, he was planning to use the demon dragon's corpse to strengthen the power of his family. He always flaunted himself as the greatest and the worst, but to be hunted by a human in the end, Gavid muttered. Gavid had his suspicions, but he could not be entirely certain. No matter how much of a fool Raizakia might have been, it was unthinkable for an ancient demonic dragon to be hunted down by a mere human, let alone an entire legion. Yet Raizakia was indeed hunted by Eugene Lionheart. "He is impressive," commented Gavid. Gavid had his hypothesis about Raizakia's death. The dragon's seclusion, lasting centuries, implied he had reasons to hide. Raizakia was obsessively fixated on Sienna Meridian, and both went into hiding around the same time. But while Sienna returned, Raizakia did not. Raizakia must have been in a weakened state after suffering a mortal wound. Eugene Lionheart and Sienna Meridian, together they had hunted Raizakia. Without a doubt, Eugene Lionheart is stronger than Vermouth was at that age. Gavid continued to voice his thoughts. Even after taking such factors into account, it was still impossible to deny Eugene's Lionheart's strength. He had conquered Raizakia less than a year after the night march took place. That meant that in less than a year, Eugene Lionheart managed to surpass Raizakia. "That's why," said Noir. With a faint smile, Noir descended from the desk. The reason for her visit today was to confront the Demon King of Incarceration. She simply could not understand his actions. They were baffling. What did he know? What did he desire? Why had he intervened on the battlefield to save Hamel? "I am curious," Noir told herself. It wasn't just the Demon King of Incarceration. Why Hamel? Noir thought of the one person who could drive her curiosity through the roof. The ominous light emitted by the moonlight sword and the light that appeared when the Demon King of Fury was slain, they were distinct. In Noir's view, such powers could never coexist within a single human. "You are exceptional. Special," Noir realized. Even Vermouth had not possessed such power. Was that why the Demon King of Incarceration saved Hamel? But why? Was the hero not always an adversary to a Demon King? "To speak frankly, Duke Lindman, I am attracted to Eugene Lionheart," Noir said, sounding coquettish. Though she claimed honesty, Noir had no intention of revealing her true feelings. She had no intention of letting him know that Eugene might be the reincarnation of Hamel, or that Iris, having become the Demon King of Fury, had perished at Eugene's hands the previous day at the Southern Sea. "He'll come to know eventually. It's only a matter of time before all is known," Noir justified her actions mentally. In particular, the defeat of the Demon King of Fury would be known to the world in a month at most. Eugene's true identity, too, would be revealed when Gavid and Eugene eventually cross swords with sincerity. The Demon King of Incarceration eagerly awaits Eugene Lionheart, the hero to ascend Babel. "You, his blade, might intend to strike him down the moment he tries," continued Noir. "Indeed," came Gavid's answer. "But what should I do? As I said, I'm smitten with Eugene Lionheart. It's purely selfish, but I wish he wouldn't die, said Noir. Adjusting the glasses perched on her nose, Noir fixed her gaze on Gavid. What should I do? I do have several ideas. Should I corrupt him? Turn him into a slave of pleasure, so dependent on me that he can't live without? What if I make him cling and rely solely on me? Gavies just stared at Noir as she listed out different ideas of toying with Eugene. Corrupting a noble and strong hero sounds delectable, but killing him while he remains pure and strong is also tempting, Noir continued to contemplate. So you don't intend for Eugene Lionheart to ascend Babel, Gavid remarked. Before he climbs Babel he might come looking for me, don't you think so? Said Noir while beaming. To kill me, I mean. Why would I shy away or quietly offer him my head if he does? If Eugene comes to kill me, I'll respond to his killing intent with a happy heart. Is that acceptable? I don't understand your question, said Gavid, slightly narrowing his eyes. The Demon King of Incarceration was clear in his words to Eugene Lionheart. Climb Babel and point your blade at me. I await the day you ascend Babel. I exist as the blade of His Majesty, the Demon King of Incarceration. As long as he said he would wait for the hero in Babel as his blade, I must also wait for the hero in Babel. But that is my problem. Duke Noir Giabella, it is not yours to concern, explained Gavid. Yet Noir only grinned in response. Gavid could say such things in his ignorance, but Noir wasn't seeking Gavid's words. Rather, she wished to discern the true intentions of the Demon King of Incarceration. Certainly, the Demon King of Incarceration sought something from Eugene. For those desires to be realized, Eugene or Hamel had to ascend Babel. But what if Noir were to prevent this ascent? What would the Demon King of Incarceration do? She wasn't seeking his permission. Does Duke Lindman know nothing? Noir asked. She slowly raised his head skyward. Just moments before, she had been on the 90th floor of Babel, in the office of Gavid Lindman. Yet somehow, without even realizing it, she had ascended beyond the 90th floor. A throne ensnared by chains loomed in front of her. Compared to you, answered the Demon King of Incarceration. True to Noir's expectations, the Demon King's expression bore no hint of emotion. Is it discomforting that I know so much? Noir quipped with a smile. But the Demon King just stared deep into Noir's eyes before finally shaking his head. You know nothing, he responded. Oh, is that so? Noir retorted. Noir knew of Eugene being the reincarnation of Hamel, of being the one to bring down the Demon Dragon Castle, of slaying the Demon King of Fury, and of the divine power that enabled him to achieve that feat. She knew of the light that shone when the Moonlight Sword went berserk, the light that was eerily similar to the power of destruction. Certainly, she continued. She knew of the darkness in Seal Lionheart's eyes. Those eyes held the power of two authorities. She knew of Vermouth of Despair, who once wielded the weapon of the Demon Kings and the potent bloodline passed down over 300 years, the essence of the Lionheart clan. Noir had witnessed it all. But certainty eluded her. Only two beings could truly know these truths. Vermouth of Despair and the Demon King of Incarceration. Noir repeated those names in her Heart.Light's novel. And the latter stood right before her. To hear the truth, what price must I pay? Noir asked while kneeling before the Demon King. The chains connected to the Demon King of Incarceration creaked. Resting his chin on his hand, the Demon King offered a slight smile. Freedom, was his answer. Freedom? Noir echoed. Just as the word suggests. If you wish to hear the truth, you must offer your freedom in exchange, explained the Demon King of Incarceration. Why? I believe I've already dedicated my freedom and loyalty to you. Do I still have more freedom left to give? Queried Noir. Your very presence here, your attempts to discern my intentions, all are possible because you are free, the Demon King of Incarceration countered. Indeed, no one knew this better than Noir herself. After the war's end, Noir expanded her influence as fervently as ever. She corrupted the heroes of the war and seized their power. She restrained and tempted the demons who emerged from the depths. She dispatched the night demons beyond the border of Helmuth to gather vast amounts of life force. Still, with all her tenacious and relentless efforts to grow in power, the Demon King of Incarceration never once confronted Noir. Unless her hefty annual taxes could be considered a check? Noir briefly gazed at the Demon King of Incarceration, then nodded slightly. If I am now free, Would it be permissible for me to touch Hamel? She asked. The demon king of incarceration began, pausing with a sly chuckle. He refers to himself as Eugene Lionheart. How splendid, Noor chuckled. But for me the name Hamel bears deeper ties. And isn't it more special for me to call him Hamel? Everyone else will call him Eugene. It's your choice how you address him, responded the demon king of incarceration. Right, freedom. So, I can do as I please. Noor questioned again, wanting a clear answer from the demon king of incarceration. The demon king of incarceration had desires concerning Hamel, desires that could only be fulfilled if Hamel ascended the Tower of Babel. If you wish it, the demon king of incarceration said without a change in emotion. His smile remained, but to Noir this mirth seemed more unexpected. The usual sense of ennui Noir felt from him was faint. I anticipate his ascent to Babel, the demon king of incarceration continued. But just because he challenges Babel doesn't mean I won't present any trials to him. The hero. If he wishes to ascend, I will, as always, test the hero in my capacity as the demon king. Noor didn't interrupt the demon king's explanation. You too will be part of this trial, Queen of the Night Demons, Duke Morgiabella. Not just you either. Like it did centuries ago, this building will return to its former state of the Demon King's castle. And this city will revert to the Demon King's dominion, declared the Demon King of incarceration. How magnificent, Noir remarked with sincerity. Continuing the war from 300 years ago is not just my wish but the desire of all demons who've lived since that era. Demon King of incarceration, you might have granted peace to the world, but we, the demons, don't desire such concessions. Why should we yield to peace? Because a promise was made, answered the Demon King of incarceration. That promise. Many demons couldn't accept it. Well, fine, let's not dwell on matters from 300 years ago. If I may dare to interpret your wishes, Demon King of incarceration, you seek the hero who's overcome trials, asked Noir. Without doing so, he's not worthy to challenge me, responded the Demon King. If he's unworthy, then he's unnecessary. So, what happens then? Do we wait until a new worthy hero emerges? Queried Noir. Do you want the answer? The Demon King shot back. No, Demon King of incarceration. I don't wish to surrender my freedom. With a bright smile, Noir rose. Demon King of incarceration, she began. When Hamel challenges Babel, you said that you would test him and that I would be included in that trial. Will I be free at that moment? Demons find delight in battle and yearn for wars, the Demon King of incarceration replied, the echoes of his voice filling the vast hall. Is it not the same for you? I desire my own war, Morgiabella declared with a mischievous grin. Not to test Hamel for you, but to fight him driven by my own ambition and will. I yearn for Hamel to come to me with a pure intent to strike me down. Then I shall grant you the answer you seek. The Demon King's eyes narrowed. Morgiabella, I shall impose no sanctions if you seek to end Eugene. Whether you march to slay Eugene or he comes to strike you down, I shall not intervene. Ahaha. Genuine laughter escaped Noir at this response. It was, after all, the very answer she had sincerely hoped for. Morgiabella did not wish for interference from the Demon King. Whether she destroyed Hamel or whether she was broken by him, when the two existences collided, she wanted to be the sole possessor of Hamel at that moment. In that moment, Hamel will be solely mine, Noir thought with delight. Even Hamel's allies like Sienna Meridian and Christina Rogerus wouldn't be able to disturb that destined encounter. No matter how fierce their assault, Noir's gaze would remain locked onto Hamel, and undoubtedly, his focus would be solely on her. The passion of that moment promised to be the greatest ecstasy she had ever felt in her long, eventful life. I've received the answer I sought, Noir stated gracefully. She gave a light bow before turning to leave. Why have you not ascended to the title of Demon King yourself? The voice of the Demon King of incarceration echoed as she took a few steps. Morgiabella, with your power and fervor, you could claim the title this very moment. With a teasing chuckle, she turned to face the Demon King. To think you'd hold me in such high regard. But how can I become a Demon King when I don't even know the way? To be called a Demon King, one must become deserving of the title. The Demon King of incarceration responded immediately. You've already dominated countless humans, mocked and belittled them, and amassed power befitting a Demon King. The moment the people of your city begin to address you not as the queen of the night demons but as the demon king, you could claim the title instantly. I thought as much, Noir acknowledged. She knew her powers had already surpassed that belonging to the demon king of carnage, cruelty, and fury from 300 years ago. Yet Noir remained a mere demon. In the first place, she had never seen herself as a demon king, nor had she ever aspired to be one. Especially now, she held no recognition of herself as such. In the moment she fully recognized her power, all beings entranced by her would hail her as the demon king, and she would cease to be the queen of the night demons and instead be crowned the demon king. Being a demon king would make me less unique, Noir mused, laughing softly as she shook her head. The title holds such commonality now. Already 4 demon kings have met their end at Hamel's hands. Even if I were to become one, I could never be the demon king Hamel despises and wants dead the most. Only the demon kings of incarceration and destruction remained. But if I remain the queen of the night demons, I can be Hamel's most unique night demon, she reasoned. I could become the demon he finds most special, the one he loathes the most, and the one he desires to kill above all others. To me, that holds far more allure and significance than the title of a demon king. There had been other reasons she had been reluctant even before she became aware of Hamel's reincarnation. She had believed that if she became a demon king, she would have to face off against the demon king of incarceration. For Noir, who was aware of the power wielded by the demon king of incarceration, the thought of fighting him as an equal held no charm. But upon learning of Hamel's rebirth, her reasons shifted. Noir now had absolutely no desire to be a demon king. She wanted to remain a demon and the queen of the night demons. She longed to be a unique object of Hamel's hatred and desire to destroy. You're always the same, a voice remarked. After Noir Giabella vanished from the chamber, the demon king of incarceration chuckled and nodded. Chapter 386. Voyage Home 5. Even on their way back, the inspection and experimentation on the demon eye continued. Seal bore 2 such eyes. The demon eye of darkness and the demon eye of immobility. Eugene deeply loathed the name demon eye of immobility since it was coined by Noir, but he didn't bother to come up with a different name himself. Are you afraid that people are going to mock the name you choose? Mare teased. Eugene swiftly answered her ridicule with a knock to the head, which immediately earned him a slap on the back from Sienna as she proceeded to scold him for hitting a child. Although the powers of the demon eye of darkness were well known, the true capabilities of the demon eye of immobility still needed to be discovered. While its possessor, Seal, had an instinctual understanding of it, a crude method of testing was still the surest way to understand its capabilities. It's surprisingly cost-effective, Sienna concluded after numerous tests. It consumes less mana than the demon eye of darkness, and its powers are quite intuitive. Seal nodded in agreement while rubbing her tired eyes. Eugene shared the same sentiment. Unlike the demon eye of darkness, the demon eye of immobility couldn't create shadows or materialize them. It couldn't enthrall minds like the demon eye of fantasy or bestow its possessor with power comparable to a demon king like the demon eye of divine glory. Its power was simply to halt things in place. If properly supplied with mana, its potential is significant, Eugene remarked while staring at a flame that was suspended mid-air. The demon eye could stop the flow of mana or the radiance of divine power and even interfere with human movements. If delved deeper, it could halt the heartbeat or even breathing of an individual. Yet it wasn't absolute. While it could easily manipulate a layman unfamiliar with mana, an opponent versed in using mana could resist its effects immediately. To overpower such foes, one would need to amplify its effects, which would consequently drain more mana. Even if I pour out all of my mana to the brink of exhaustion, I can't even stop someone like you, Seal complained. Her lips were pursed in a pout, and the suspended flame waned before dying. Well then, do you really think it would make any sense if you could stop me with just the demon eye's power? Eugene said with a smirk. There shouldn't be any human on the continent who is stronger than me. Did you really think I would be shot still by the demon eye you just awakened? His words were true, but Seal was bothered by Eugene's attitude. She shot him a sideways glare. You're not the strongest on the continent. Says who? Said Eugene while raising an eyebrow. Sir Molan is certainly stronger than you, Seal pointed out, causing Eugene's cheeks to twitch slightly. Eugene simulated a scenario in his mind before responding. His last confrontation with Molan. It could hardly be termed a fight. Eugene hadn't fought him with all his might. Moreover, engaging Molin the Fool without weapons in a fistfight was something even Vermouth would avoid. "If we were to fight now, I'd win," Eugene stated confidently while puffing up his chest. In fact, he would have had a fair chance if he had taken up arms during their previous encounter as well. "What do you think?" "I didn't see the fight between Eugene and Molin firsthand, but you both did," Sienna asked, turning to Christina. Remembering the red divine sword that once split the world, Christina clasped her hands over her chest and pondered while recalling the red blade. "Sir Eugene would win," Christina answered in affirmation. "Well, right. That's impressive," Sienna said hesitantly. The light brightening Christina's pupils and the unwavering belief in her eyes made Sienna nod with a hint of trepidation while witnessing Christina's frenzied devotion. "Well, being the continent's strongest doesn't really mean anything to me," Eugene bragged. "Look at this show-off," commented Sienna. "Leave it be. Unlike you and me, Hamel was never hailed as the continent's strongest in his lifetime," said Anise. Before they knew it, Anise had taken over and the two of them whispered behind his back. The truth was stark. Sienna had been known as the continent's strongest wizard. Anise was hailed as the greatest priest on the continent. There was no need to say anything about Vermouth. "Molin was never called as such," argued Eugene. "After you perished, Molin was named the continent's strongest warrior," Anise immediately countered. "In my time, I was acclaimed as the continent's best mercenary," Eugene hastily said. "I've never heard such a thing," muttered Anise. "Even the king of mercenaries didn't consider you a true mercenary," Sienna chimed in. Every word they exchanged felt like a dagger to Eugene's heart and pride. "This lady considers benefactor the best benefactor of the continent." Rhaenyra offered consoling words from within his cloak. But what in the realm was the continent's best benefactor? To soothe his bubbling anger, Eugene gently stroked Rhaenyra's smooth forehead. "Regardless, I do believe your demon eye possess a significant potential." Eugene managed to continue the conversation they had left off. However, his breath seemed slightly labored. The demon eye of immobility. It wasn't to be underestimated by any means. The demon king of fury, Iris, albeit greatly weakened, was momentarily restrained by the power of the demon eye of immobility. It was an undeniable fact. In other words, this intuitive ability could affect beings as powerful as the demon kings. What if Sienna was supplying mana for Seal, or what if she used Akasha's dragon heart? They still had several more days of sailing remaining before they reached Shimuin. As such, Sienna had plenty of time to ponder the feasibility of such tactics. "It's not as simple as it seems," Sienna said reluctantly. A day elapsed before a conclusion was reached. Diagrams and runes drawn meticulously in the air and on the floor were swiftly erased by a wave of Sienna's staff. She continued, "Demonies are both extraordinary organs and physical entities. They're additions to the body but also things humans shouldn't naturally possess. Thus they're heavily influenced by their wielder. Simply pouring mana into an underdeveloped demon eye wouldn't allow the manifestation of greater power. It was similar to how a wizard of the 7th circle possessing infinite mana could not cast spells of the 8th or the 9th circle. Even with an external magical tool like Akasha, it will be the same. Perhaps, given Seal's prowess, that is, depending on her accomplishments in the White Flame formula." "Seal, what's with that look?" Sienna asked, pausing her explanation. Seal's shoulders were drooping and her face was gloomy. She met Sienna's eyes before responding. "So, to put it simply, I'm too weak to even receive your support, Lady Sienna?" "No. Well, it's not exactly like that," Sienna explained hesitantly. "You don't need to spare my feelings. I'm more aware of my inadequacies than anyone else," said Seal. "Seal, while you're certainly strong among humans at least, even now you could subdue most with a mere glance." Sienna did her best to console Seal. "But I cannot subdue you, Lady Sienna," responded Seal. "That's because I'm not just any human." "Wait, you want to subdue me?" Sienna asked, her eyes widening in surprise. Seal averted her gaze in response. Seal did not merely wish to subdue Sienna. She also yearned to overpower both Christina and Anise. Moreover, she wanted to conquer Mare and Rhaenyra, who were comfortably ensconced in Eugene's embrace as if it were a given. With the newly acquired power of the demon eye, she dreamt of making all kneel before her. Then she would immobilize Eugene and torment him as much as she desired. Ehem. Seal swiftly dispelled the wicked thoughts that arose in her mind with a cough. Upon pondering why she was riddled with such weird thoughts, she realized it was all due to her twin brother, Cyan. Her shameless sibling had always indulged in lewd books since childhood. Yes, that was the only explanation. It's just that I'm completely ridiculous to the point of being amazingly strong. Don't compare yourselves with me. Both you and Cyan possess ample talent. You also have more than enough battle experience and combat senses, Eugene reflected. Then what are we lacking? Questioned Seal. Introspection? Perhaps meditation? In the end, it's not about the physical training and sweating but the strengthening of your inner self. Cultivation, meditation, things like that. So when you return home, practice the white flame formula underwater, advised Eugene. Vermouth had left behind a legacy in Lionheart. Throughout the continent, few places were as abundant in mana as the Lionheart's ley line. The World Tree, which Eugene had relocated from the Samar rainforest, further enhanced the ley line. Now, the entire forest of the Lionheart estate was so rich in mana that it was almost as if it were a ley line in its entirety. Beneath the man-made lake was an underwater cave that originally connected with the Lionheart's ley line. It was a place where the roots of the World Tree saplings had made home. It was a rare location where one could gain mana simply by breathing. To the wizard Sienna, this underwater cave was truly the Lionheart's most precious treasure. Eugene owed much of his achievements to this cave. During his time training in the White Flame formula, his lightning flame had gone through strengthening, and his mana reservoir had increased several-fold. Without his time in the cave, he might have worried about depleting his mana every time he summoned the Moonlight Sword. Fuck, Eugene muttered suddenly. What? Why are you swearing so suddenly? The words had unknowingly escaped his lips when he thought about the Moonlight Sword. Sienna's eyebrows furrowed at the sudden expletive, Anise widened her eyes, and Seal started to hiccup in surprise. The Moonlight Sword, what do I do? Said Eugene. What else? Why not just toss that damned blade into the sea here? Suggested Sienna. That'd be a waste, Eugene said, reluctant to part with the blade. What if it causes trouble again? Asked Anise, her expression suddenly solemn. There's no guarantee it's going to act up again, countered Eugene. Wow, always with the smooth words. You can't even take it out because you're scared, retorted Sienna. No, it's not fear. But what if summoning it here causes the ship to sink? Eugene shot back. That's absurd. Are you saying it'd be fine on land? Anise asked in exasperation. At least it wouldn't sink a ship there, Eugene grumbled as he peeked into his cloak. The Moonlight Sword, which had once overwhelmed Eugene's sense of self and gone berserk, was now quietly sealed and resting in its sheath. Since that day, Eugene had not drawn the Moonlight Sword. Even though the backlash of ignition was gone and his body had healed, his confidence in handling the Moonlight Sword remained faint. It changed. Of that there is no doubt, Eugene told himself. Just as the White Flame formula transformed during the battle with Iris, so did the Moonlight Sword. Originally, the Moonlight Sword absorbed Eugene's mana and radiated moonlight, but it never mixed with Eugene's flame. However, in the combat with Iris, Eugene managed to fuse his mana, flame, and the moonlight. During this, his hand intertwined with the Moonlight Sword, the moonlight raged out of control, and Eugene's consciousness was swept away into the void. The Moonlight Sword. It merged with me. No, it became one with me. Eugene thought back on how things had unfolded. There was a saying, body and sword as one, which literally meant the unity of body and sword, making them a single entity. When one wielded a sword fervently, a moment would arrive when they gained this realization. The self and the sword weren't separate. They were the sword and the sword was them. Once they came to this realization, the way they wielded the sword would undergo a transformation. He had reached this realm long before meeting Vermouth in his previous life. Back then, Hamel was not just adept at unifying with swords but so proficient with various weapons that it could be described as body and weapons as one. To reach the sword and body as one only now. Eugene pondered it time and time again. During the rampage of the Moonlight Sword, he felt terrifyingly close to merging with that ominous blade. The moonlight may have gone wild, but Eugene had cornered Iris by mixing the moonlight and flame as he desired. To be honest, it felt too precious a power to abandon. Eugene, I don't understand your concern. You heard Vermouth's voice, didn't you? That blade isn't my legacy. Vermouth never intended to leave the moonlight sword behind. Yet it was beside your tomb. Sienna paused while biting her lip. She recalled Vermouth from their encounter beneath the desert. At that time she couldn't communicate with him. Despite her many attempts, Vermouth just stared at her with lifeless eyes without responding. When Eugene was ensnared by the moonlight sword's fury, what she felt from him had been the same as her encounter with Vermouth in the past. What Sienna feared most was that the Hamel she knew, the Eugene she knew, would become something entirely foreign. Well now, Eugene said after a moment of silence, my very existence here is Vermouth's design. Eugene's lips twisted into a smirk. To be honest, Sienna, I think it's all crap, confessed Eugene. Sienna didn't have anything to say at Eugene's sudden sarcasm. That bastard reincarnated me at his whim. All right. Vermouth probably feels some injustice too since I died so suddenly, he continued. Eugene chuckled as he flopped into a chair. I reincarnated as Vermouth intended, and I've been devouring the legacy he left behind. Now I somewhat understand that annoying thing he kept saying, it must be you. It's not enough. Eugene's voice grew cold. Whether I'm the reincarnation of Agaroth or Hamel, what can't be done just can't be done. It's lacking my arsenal, he admitted. Eugene. It's impossible to use the moonlight sword, the sword of destruction, to defeat the demon king of destruction. But it can be used against the demon king of incarceration, right? He asked. Eugene became acutely aware of the moonlight sword hidden within his cloak. I would be able to wield it against both Gavid Lindman and Noir Giabella. The moonlight sword was ominous, and it was the sword of destruction. If misused, one's very self could be lost to its luminous allure. Eugene remained skeptical whether the demon king of destruction even possessed a sense of self, but if the moonlight sword had not been left in the tomb by Vermouth, if Vermouth had been out of his mind, the very existence of the moonlight sword might have been a trap set by the demon king of destruction. Even if you know the cup is poisoned, sometimes you have to drink, Eugene said metaphorically. The transformed white flame formula. Signature. Weapons of the demon kings. Relics of the Lionheart clan. The empty sword. The holy sword. The divine sword. Eugene could not be certain that utilizing them all would be enough to triumph over Noir Giabella, Gavid Lindman, or the demon king of incarceration. Unless we resort to poison, we cannot surpass the demon king of incarceration, Eugene stated flatly. He had pondered this throughout his journey from the Salgalta Sea all the way back to the port city of Shimuan. The moonlight sword was dangerous. This was a fact Eugene knew better than anyone. Yet its danger posed a threat not only to him but to his adversaries as well. So what if Vermouth didn't intend it? What matters is that I'm here now. Whether he intended it or not, I've deemed it necessary to use, Eugene declared. Sienna didn't say anything in the face of Eugene's resoluteness. Sienna, do you want me to move only as Vermouth intended? Eugene asked, lifting his head. He glared intensely at Sienna. You couldn't possibly think that. Sienna snarled, keeping a tight grip on the hem of her dress. Eugene withdrew his gaze from her and looked at Christina and Anise. We will follow your decision, Sir Eugene, Christina responded. However, if your choice leads you to ruin, we will lay down our lives in your stead. If you hold us dear, please take greater care of yourself. Eugene gave a nod and turned his gaze to Seal. After a pause she said, What can I say? Still, if you're again drawn by that cursed blade, I'll try maybe like before to pull you back. Right. Only after hearing everyone's responses did Eugene slightly relax his expression. I'm sorry about the outburst. Do you have something loose in your head? Why are you ruining the mood by suddenly acting like that? Sienna huffed with anger. Eugene licked his lips awkwardly as he crossed his legs. Well, what can I do? Thinking about it made me angry. This cursed moonlight sword. And that damned Vermouth. Even so, spat Sienna. Anyways, I'll handle the moonlight sword. Eugene changed the topic. What do you mean, you'll handle it? Roared Sienna. Listen. The moonlight sword that Vermouth once wielded and the one I now have are greatly different. The blade itself is now half broken, Eugene attempted to explain. What does that have to do with anything? Sienna shouted in anger. When I swung it at Iris, I intended to amplify the blade's power with my own, enhancing the moonlight with my mana and flames. In the process, my essence began to merge with the blade. Eugene paused, recalling that moment vividly. To put it bluntly, the blade consumed me while in the process of merging. And then? Sienna asked. I was consumed because my power was insufficient. My flames paled in comparison to the Moonlight Sword's power. But what about now? He questioned. Eugene raised his thumb and pointed confidently at himself. Do you know who I am? Sienna was dumbfounded at this sudden question. I am Agaroth, the god of war. Sienna just stared at Eugene, saying nothing. Wavering under Sienna's gaze, Eugene cleared his throat before saying, Ahem. I can now wield divine power and my white flame formula has evolved. I believe I won't be consumed by the Moonlight Sword as before. If I can maintain a balance of power and achieve that same state of becoming one with the sword, I can wield the blade without it running rampant. Sighing deeply, Sienna took a seat. I don't even. Just handle it, okay? When have I not? Questioned Eugene. You can also handle it yourself when you're trying to explain yourself to Lady Ancilla, continued Sienna. The expedition immediately sent news to Shimuan through their long-range communication device after defeating the Demon King of Fury as soon as they left the Salgalta Sea. Although the royal family of Shimuan had been caught off guard by the sudden report without any prior notice, the fact that the Demon King had been subdued meant grand celebration preparations were in order. The Lionheart family would surely participate in the celebration if news of the Demon King's defeat spread. What should we do now? Eugene and Seal's expressions quickly darkened after hearing Sienna's words. Chapter 387, Triumph, 1. The leader of the Church of Light and Pope of the Holy Empire of Uras Aurius. The Crusader Raphael, the Blood Cross Knights and the secretly trained battle clerics. If the Pope were to utter a word, all believers in Uras would gladly become his warriors. Yet the Pope departed the papal state with only a few hundred at his side. The Emperor of the Kiel Empire was making his move as well. Strahd II summoned Alcester with a sour expression. The White Dragon Knights were assembled merely 10 minutes into their audacious conversation. The Emperor maintained a sour expression throughout the meeting, and after its conclusion he left the Imperial Palace with heavy sighs. Aroth too was taking action. King Daendolf, Crown Prince Honian, Chief Court Wizard Tremple, and the elite wizards under his command all gathered. In addition, 3 Tower Masters were making their move as well. The whereabouts of Balzac Ludbeth, the Black Tower Master, were still unknown. Moreover, the Green Tower Master Generic Osman had stepped down in shame after his encounter with Sienna, and a new tower head had yet to be appointed in his place. As such, it meant that all existing and available Tower Masters of Aroth had been mobilized. In the north, Beast King Amon-Rur gazed at the distant Lahainjar. The founding king of the kingdom and his ancestor, the Brave King, remained in seclusion. However, if the Brave King had heard the news and been free to act, Amon believed without a doubt that he would have left the kingdom. Armed with this conviction, Amon ventured out of the tundra with the White Fang Knights. The nations weren't the only ones affected. A great warrior was aroused in the depths of Samar Forest, a place untouched by civilization. Having decimated the Kochilla tribe, the Zoran tribe was on the cusp of dominating the Great Forest. Ivatar Jahav, the young chief of the Zoran tribe, rallied his warriors with his spear. Unlike other nations, there was no warp gate in their forest. However, the blessing of the forest imbued with Ivatar opened a path through the forest to hasten their steps. The whole continent was in motion. The monster had wreaked havoc as the leader of a pirate fleet in the southern seas for over 300 years. However, the subjugation of Iris, the Abyssal Princess or the Pirate Empress, though watched closely by the continent, wasn't quite enough to stir the continent. But then that Abyssal Princess became the Demon King at the southern end of the continent. Eugene Lionheart, Christina Rogerus and Sienna Meridian, who had not participated in the initial expedition, became the spearhead in vanquishing this Demon King. A tale fit for legends and myths was unfolding in reality. It was unbelievable. How could the Abyssal Princess, a dark elf, become the Demon King? No, that much could be understood. But vanquished? What is happening? King Osiris Animus of Shimuan clutched his aching head while sighing deeply. I sent them to deal with a pirate and they return having defeated a Demon King. He had called for the expedition in haste because Iris had kidnapped a large number of dwarf craftsmen. Only 20 craftsmen had been kidnapped, yet they had been master craftsmen. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the 20 represented the very legacy of their race. Osiris had been feeling the need to curb Iris since she had been growing increasingly aggressive. However, the actual push for the expedition had been to appease the dwarf's strikes and protests. One small relief was that the expedition had rescued the kidnapped dwarf craftsman, though at great cost. King Osiris let out another deep, weary sigh. Helmuth, King Osiris' thoughts naturally turned to the Devildom. The vanquishing of the Demon King was a matter that Osiris couldn't find joy in. The mere idea that Iris had become the Demon King was too surreal to grapple with. Instead, fear gripped Osiris. What if the Demon King of Incarceration, the ruler of Helmuth, felt something extraordinary about this newly risen Demon King? What if the death of this Demon King provoked Helmuth's ruler? Regardless of the reason, what if the Demon King of Incarceration had a change in sentiment? During the night march, the Demon King of Incarceration had spoken about the end of the oath. Osiris had been present. The end of the promise would mark the cessation of 3 centuries of peace. Osiris shuddered while anxiously gnawing at his nails. Triumph. Although a pirate had turned into the Demon King, the expedition had achieved a legendary feat should they prepare a grand celebration for their return. But wouldn't such an event provoke the Demon King of Incarceration? Countless festivals were held and celebrated each year on Shutter Island. The citizens were addicted to vibrant festivities. They were sparked with an enthusiasm that even the king couldn't quell. Word had already spread across the island about the return of a fleet of dozens of ships. Even without Osiris' decree, the citizens were preparing for a grand celebration. So should he, fearing potential wrath from the Demon King of Incarceration, order the citizens to stay locked up in their homes? Osiris had no answer to this question. However, he was faced with reality before he could even make a decision regarding his dilemma. Shimuan could not be considered a small nation. Although its territory consisted mostly of islands, it could be viewed as a formidable power, even if it could not rival empires. Yet it wasn't among the continent's most powerful. Speaking from a militaristic perspective, Shimuan could not compete with the 2 empires and the magic kingdom of Arath. In fact, Shimuan could not even compete with the barren northern kingdom of Ruhr or the desert kingdom of Nahama. No matter how mighty the nation, it couldn't declare isolation in these circumstances. Facing the arriving dignitaries from various countries, Osiris felt cornered. It was the same against the barbarians of Samar Forest, let alone the different nations. Shimuan's main sea trade customers were the outer islands and the various tribes of Samar Forest due to their lack of warp gates. Eventually, Osiris had no choice but to open the palace gates. Leaders of various nations, each with hundreds of soldiers, entered the capital of Shimuan as if it were only natural. Even the barbarians from the Great Forest have come. Emperor Strat II sneered at the warriors from the Zoran tribe. The Kiel Empire and the Great Forest of Samar were far from allies. Kiel had long desired to conquer the vast forest. If the Demon King of Incarceration hadn't supported the freedom of the forest's inhabitants, it would have been annexed by Kiel long ago. Such brazen and selfish people, Emperor Strat II thought contemptuously. Emperor Strat II despised the natives of Samar Forest. Resisting the empire's rule? It seemed romantic in writing, but the natives of the forest crossed borders illegally at any chance they saw. Moreover, criminals from all over the continent sought refuge in the lawless forest. Occasionally, citizens of the empire would disappear inside the forest, and there were times when exorbitant ransoms were demanded in return for their safety. Ivatar Jahav. He is a young man on the brink of uniting Samar, Alcester whispered. His gaze was fixed on the distant figure of Ivatar. The young man was rumored to be only 22. He's powerful, Alcester thought. Ivatar radiated strength comparable to any of the continent's formidable warriors. And it wasn't just Ivatar. Each warrior he brought with him felt as formidable as any member of the White Dragon Knights. Were they always that powerful? Alcester wondered. Alcester had seen uncertain, untapped possibilities in the tribes of the Great Forest, but the young chieftain Ivatar and his warriors easily surpassed those expectations. If Ivatar and the Zoran tribe were to unify Samar Forest in such a manner, they could become a colossal tribe capable of dominating any lesser kingdom. Humph. Wasn't that achievement made possible with the aid of our Kiel Empire? Commented Emperor Strat II. Pardon, asked Alcester. Don't you understand, Sir Alcester? In the war against the tribe's enemies, the Coachillas, didn't our countryman from Kiel, Eugene Lionheart, play a pivotal role? Emperor Strahd II puffed out his chest proudly while saying so. The young barbarian crossed the border and desperately sought to visit the Lionheart estate. He asked for their aid in the war against the Coachilla tribe, did he not? Continued Strahd II. Alcester wasn't sure how to respond to this warped logic. Thinking about it now, they aren't even that great. If it weren't for the merciful permission of our empire, that barbarian wouldn't have even crossed the border, let alone seek assistance from the Lionhearts, declared Strahd II. It wasn't just Eugene involved in the War of the Great Forest. 3 Tower Masters from Arath and even the Saint of the Holy Empire had participated. But wasn't the center of it all Eugene Lionheart, a citizen of Kiel? Emperor Strahd II felt a slight improvement in his mood. Any thought of the Demon King's subjugation caused his expression to crumple. Emperor Strahd II was of the view that any conflict with Helmuth should be avoided at all costs. He wanted to avoid agitating the Demon King of Incarceration and to seek ways to extend the oath, even if it meant controlling the mind of the hero Eugene Lionheart. But the ability of the room that had been bestowed upon the Kiel royal family by the Great Vermouth had no effect on Eugene. Moreover, Eugene was the reincarnation of the hero Hamel from 300 years ago. Humph. Emperor Strahd II gave a mental snort. The fleeting positive feeling waned. Emperor Strahd II's face contorted in distaste as if he had tasted shit. Recalling the beating from Eugene, the scolding from the wise Sienna, and even the theft of the blank identity cards, which were reserved for the Empire's top spies, weighed heavily on him. Clearing his throat, Alcester said, "Ahem. Your Majesty, underestimating the capabilities of the young chieftain might be ill-advised. Considering the political climate, fostering friendly relations with Chief Ivatar would be." But Strahd II interrupted him. "Even so, aren't they just barbarians who light fires by rubbing twigs in the forest? If not for Helmuth's protection, we would have trampled them long ago and cleared the forest. Now, with the protection over the Coachilla tribe gone, isn't it the time to do so?" "Please, Your Majesty, refrain from saying such things," Alcester said. "Fine. Very well, Sir Alcester. If you wish to cultivate friendly ties with those barbarians, I'll prioritize fostering relationships with the Great Forest as a primary agenda for the Empire this year." Emperor Strahd II spoke as if begrudgingly granting a favor. Although the Coachilla tribe was extinct, neither the Demon King of Incarceration nor other nations would want to see the Kiel Empire become more dominant. Establishing amicable ties would be beneficial if they couldn't dominate Samar Forest by force. In that case, we can officially claim compensation for the troubles crossing into our borders from the Samar Forest, Strahd II thought. That is if the Zoran tribe succeeded in unifying the vast woods. In any case, quite a few gathered. "Look at them all," muttered Emperor Strahd II while withdrawing his gaze from Ivatar. As far as the Emperor knew, Pope Aerius had only ever left the Holy Kingdom of Eurus twice in the many decades since his enthronement. Once during the previous night march and now. That old man's got such a heavy ass. Even during my coronation as well as for most significant imperial events, he's just sent a handwritten letter, grumbled Strahd II. Isn't this a crucial event that could decide and disrupt the fate of the continent? Even you are present, Your Majesty, responded Alcester. Humph. Emperor Strahd II grunted, clearly irked by Alcester's sassy response. To be honest, Emperor Strahd II wasn't eager to be at this gathering. Even though he sincerely acted for the Empire's safety, his reluctance was primarily due to the presence of the hero Eugene, the reincarnation of the stupid Hamel. The Pope of the Holy Empire must have been thinking something similar. Moreover, Christina Rogerus, the saint of the Holy Empire, participated in the expedition. Also, they can't simply ignore the hero of light, Alcester remarked with his fist clenched. Deep down, he regretted not having the opportunity to participate in the Demon King subjugation. Just the term Demon King subjugation ignited a flame in Alcester's heart. He was a knight to the bones. If only I could have been part of it, Alcester thought the umpteenth time. If Eugene had secretly sought help, Alcester would have set everything aside, save for his sword, and followed Eugene's lead. Ever since witnessing Eugene face off against the brave Molin, the Demon King of Incarceration, and Gavid Lindman at the Night March, Such a flame of desire had settled in Alchester's heart. Lady Carmen, I can understand, but to think I did not get to fight in a battle where Sir Ortis participated, Alchester thought in frustration. Alchester fully acknowledged Carmen's strength and her steely resolve. Those who only had a few chance encounters with Carmen would deem her a freak or a crazed woman, but those fortunate enough to have a relationship with her all acknowledged and respected her. Alchester had also received Carmen's guidance during his younger years and thus respected her. However, his respect for Ortis was virtually non-existent. Despite recognizing Ortis' capabilities and talents, Alchester knew that Ortis Hyman wasn't an individual of high moral standing. Those priests, could they be the mysterious battle priests that Euras secretly trained? Pondered Emperor Strahd II. Most likely. Their purpose remains unclear, but given the circumstances, they could be the personal guards of Saint Christina Rogerus, Alchester replied. And even the Tower Masters of Arath have gathered. Emperor Strahd II's eyebrows furrowed as he glanced over the dignitaries from Arath. Traditionally, Tower Masters weren't part of Aratha's court wizards. They were under a vow to remain neutral during Aratha's wars with other nations. The only time the Tower Masters participated in battles was when their towers transformed into battlefields. Yet here they were, 3 Tower Masters excluding the reclusive Black Tower Master and the retired Green Tower Master. Considering the King of Arath had no authority to summon them, they must have arrived of their own volition. The wise Sienna had participated in this expedition, and the foe they had vanquished was none other than one of the Demon Kings. That was reason enough for their gathering. The Beast King Amon-Rûr. Is he here because of the will of the brave Molan? Or is it because he recognizes himself as the descendant of a great hero? If not either of those, then, Strahd II mused as he looked over at the delegation from Rûr. Was it possible that the Beast King knew of Eugene Lionheart's true identity as the reincarnation of the stupid Hamel? Perhaps there was an unknown relationship between the Beast King and Eugene. One man is moving the entire continent, Strahd II realized. In the end, all these ripples were caused by a single man, Eugene Lionheart. Emperor Strahd II sighed deeply as he contemplated this. Whether Arath had come for Sienna or Euras for the saint, Eugene Lionheart stood at the heart of it all. Even the barbaric tribes of Samar Forest had come here for Eugene's sake. Nahama hasn't shown up, nor has the Anti-Demon Alliance, Emperor Strahd II noted. They're probably wary of Helmuth's reaction, Alchester replied. The Desert Kingdom of Nahama had long-standing ties with Helmuth. Traditionally, the underground dungeons of the desert were inhabited by black wizards. Nahama had always been home to the second-largest concentration of black wizards, following Helmuth and Arath. After the return of the wise Sienna, the black wizards left Arath. They either returned to Helmuth or the underground dungeons of Nahama. As such, Nahama now boasted the largest concentration of black wizards, second only to Helmuth. And at the center of their power stood Amelia Merwin, the trusted advisor to the Sultan of Nahama. Nahama, I might understand, but what about the Anti-Demon Alliance? Their absence is telling. All talk and no action, the Emperor grumbled. The Anti-Demon Alliance was a group of smaller northern nations. The nations belonging to the alliance had their military posturing at Helmuth's borders. Moreover, they were rallying their soldiers to train for demonstration purposes. However, not a single representative from the alliance had shown up, save for the Holy Empire of Euras. It was clear that they feared repercussions from both Helmuth and the Demon King of Incarceration. Do you think the Demon King of Incarceration might act? Strahd II inquired. I hope not, came Alchester's terse reply. It wasn't just a celebration of the Demon King's defeat or a gathering for information that brought them to this island. The fact that the Kiel Empire had brought the entirety of the White Dragon Knights signified a readiness for conflict. If the Demon King of Incarceration attempted to target Eugene for having defeated a Demon King, or if tensions escalated into a full-blown war between the Demon King Helmuth and the continent during the time on the island, they needed to ensure Eugene's safety amidst the chaos. Seems like others thought the same, Strahd II observed. There was no need to bring armies to a mere celebration. But Euras, Arath, and Rûr had all brought elite troops. Even the tribal chieftain of Samar had come with his warriors. Their shared intent seemed clear: protect the hero at all costs in any unforeseen situation. We would have been a laughing stock if the Kiel Empire hadn't shown up, Emperor Strahd II muttered while clicking his tongue. He firmly believed that the Demon King of Incarceration wouldn't act. He couldn't be absolutely certain, but he was pretty sure. There had been numerous chances in the past, reasons aplenty. But reasons? Had the Demon King of Incarceration ever needed reasons or opportunities? The hero hasn't yet headed to the Demon King's castle. Strahd too pondered, his face a complex mix of emotions. Ideally, he would have wished that Eugene never approached it. But that hope had already been dashed. He could only hope that the Demon King of Incarceration would remain silent until that moment came to pass, keeping true to his promise. Ahem. The rulers of the great empires were sizing each other up. A tense atmosphere permeated the area. Osiris was hesitant, reluctant to step forward amidst such an intimidating company. After a while, he finally mustered up the courage and stepped forward. He suggested, "Perhaps, instead of staying here, should we first head inside?" The Emperor, the Pope, 2 kings and the Grand Chief, as well as their respective elite troops, were all standing around in the garden of Shimuan's palace. Each nation brought with them no more than 200 or 300 knights. Still, every group was renowned and mentioned in any discourse on the finest knightly orders of the continent. Any of these factions could easily devastate a minor kingdom. Osiris felt extremely burdened simply having to stand in their midst. Suddenly, a panting royal guard rushed in, bearing news that made Osiris' eyes widen in surprise. "The Lionhearts have arrived."